Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Defining Discipline podcast. I'm your host, Scott. Defining discipline is a lifestyle, a mentality, and a brand. And within this podcast, we're going to focus on self-improvement as you follow along with me on my journey. We'll also hear from special guests of all walks of life on this podcast and their remarkable journeys that led them to where they are today. Today is day 248 of my journey. At the beginning of the year, I challenged myself to run 365 days in a row this year, all outside, bearing the elements, whatever they may bring. I also challenged myself to run 1,500 miles within this time frame. Now, this is my second year ever running. Within the first full year of running, at the age of 31, I was able to run 1,002 miles, and I did that within 175 days out of the year in 2020. So me going for 1,500 miles this year is over a 50% increase in the amount of miles as opposed to the amount of miles I ran last year. And me going for 365 days this year is over a 100% increase in the amount of days I'll be running as opposed to the amount of days that I ran last year. Not to mention this year are all days in a row with no days off. If that wasn't hard enough, I've also challenged myself to run 2 big major races within this time frame. One of those races being an ultra marathon trail race, a 50K trail race to be exact, 31-mile race. That was the Yankee Springs 50K trail race in Middleville, Michigan on June 5th, 2021. Day 156 of my journey. I was able to finish that race within 7 hours and 15 minutes and 22 seconds, so I am officially an ultra runner. On top of that race, the next race coming up within this time frame will be the Detroit Free Press Marathon. Really looking forward to that race. That race is in October, and I'll be running the Motor City Challenge of that race, which entails me running the competitive 1 mile and the competitive 5K the day before the actual marathon. Like I said, that is coming up here within about a month and a half, less than that. So we are in the middle of training for that. I'll probably be starting the taper here towards the beginning of October. So that race is right here on the cusp and getting really ready for that marathon and for the 5K and competitive 1 mile as well. Other than that, though, let's actually kind of get into mileage. So for the day today, day 248 in a row. Didn't go as low as I had the last couple days here, but I went back down to a 4.7 mile run for the day today. Overall, this week was a pretty good week, pretty high week in mileage. Not the highest I've had, but a pretty good average week. So with today's 4.7 mile run, that put me at 36.6 miles for the week, which put me at 23.3 miles for the month, which put me at 1,136.3 miles for the year. Let's focus in on these monthly miles. 23.3, day 5 so far of September. Every single month, I challenge myself to a 100-mile challenge, and I do it in honor of a charity in which I donate money to, and I also start a coinciding fundraiser in honor of that charity, where I try to raise money and awareness for that charity. So for the first 8 months of the year, we were able to raise money for 8 great charities. Now we're here within the 9th month, the month of September, in the 100-mile challenge. For the month of September is in honor of the National Reye Syndrome Foundation. And we chose this charity this month because September is Reye Syndrome Awareness Month. So what better month to choose a fundraiser in honor of National Reye Syndrome Foundation. So if you'd like to donate or make a donation to this month's fundraiser, you can find the link to do so on the Defining Discipline Instagram story, or the Defining Discipline Facebook story, or my personal page's Instagram story, or my personal page's Facebook story. Within those stories, you click on the link, it'll open up the Facebook page where you're able to make your donations. All donations that get made to this fundraiser go directly to this fundraiser. Facebook is not taking any cut or any portion of your donations. So keep that in mind. But I do know times are tough and not everyone is able to make donations, but would still like to help out. If that is the case, the next best thing you could do is to click that share button and ask other people as well to share, because we're trying to raise awareness for this cause, and the best way to do that is to get as many eyes on it as possible. And by doing that, getting as many eyes on it as possible, there's a better chance we can raise as well more money for this cause and this charity throughout this month. So let's really try to share it and get our donations in for this great cause here in the month of September. Other than that, before we actually get into today's episode, we have been doing a word of the day. So today's word of the day is adamantine. Adamantine. Adamantine means rigidly firm or unyielding. So it's almost like adamantium, but it's adamantine. That is today's word of the day. So that's kind of a cool word of the day as well that we're going to, again, screenshot. There's been a lot of great word of the days that may come back and kick back into an episode, a theme of an episode. So keep an eye out for those. Other than that, we can actually kind of break into today's episode 248. Today's theme for today's episode is going to be spark. And I wanted to talk about spark because sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes a spark is all fuel needs in order to ignite. And I mean that metaphorically, of course, and not metaphorically. I mean it in reality, because that's what happens. If there's a fuel source out there, sometimes all you need is a spark, and that thing will go up in flames. But metaphorically, I also mean that, as in sometimes, we lose our ambition, and we lose our I can't think of the word off the top of my head right now because I'm just kind of brain farting. It's getting late. But we just lose our passion, I guess, to do things, and our drive and like I said, our ambition. So sometimes when that happens, we could either just truly have lost it and just have no initiative to want to do it ever again and want to maybe just leave that part of us behind for good. Or sometimes all we need is, to be reignited. All we need is that little bit of spark to get us back into the groove of things. And, again, I don't want to keep reminiscing on the month of August here, but the month of August was just such a depressing month for me, running at least, because I didn't put in many miles. I barely broke 100 miles. I got it to 110, but the last 2 days I put in 12 miles to really get there, or over 12 miles to really get to 110. So I just felt like I was kind of losing my ambition. I was kind of losing the drive to really continue on, to really put in the miles, put in the necessary hours I need to get out there to really get my body situated. But it was those last 2 days of the month that really kind of sparked me to get back into it, and here within the first week, which was the last 2 days of this month, Monday and Tuesday of this week was the last 2 days of August. It really sparked me to continue to really push myself for the next 5 days out of this week that started the first 5 days here of September. So like I said, we can kind of look into the miles of what we had here. But, my weekly miles, 36.6. My monthly miles, 23.3. So still not too bad, not too great. But, started off the week, like I said, 6.7 for the month of August, the last 2 days, and then went on a 6.7 run, a 4.8, a 3.5, a 3.6, and a 4.7. So, I did get another 6.7 in there, but then still kept it above 5K throughout the week and finished pretty strong with an overall week of 36.6. I've been trying to do an average of 33 at least. Had gotten up to 45 throughout the month of July. Really pushed myself. But again, this episode is about spark and finding that little bit of spark that sometimes that's all you need to really reignite that flame that has started to truly go out. The fuel's there. All you need is to find that little bit of spark. And again, sometimes it can happen with just getting out there and pushing yourself to do going a little bit harder than you had been and seeing that you still got it. Or sometimes it's, buying new gear, whatever the case may be, because that's another thing that kind of helped me out here. Picking up a new GPS watch, it's really got me into the mood. So that's coming. Got a new camera that I've been working with. That's great. So that's kind of given me another spark to really get back out there and start working harder. But there's many things out there that can truly spark you to truly get back into what it is that you need to get back into and focus on. And again, for me, I don't need to always focus on running. It's not a necessity. There's plenty of other things that I find a spark to try to reignite within my life. But this is just a great example because, like I said, this past month I've really, really, I was mentally feeling mentally defeated there towards the end, and those last 2 days really sparked me back into getting back on track, especially for this race coming up here in October. And it really sparked me to just refocus on these goals that I have set for myself, to eventually step it up from the 50K to a 50 miler, eventually from the 50 miler to a 100 miler. These are probably going to be years out and years of training, years of working hard for this stuff. But these are goals that I have, and I know throughout these goals, I'm going to hit these roadblocks. I'm going to hit these parts in these months, these weeks, and these days where I don't have the energy, I don't have the drive, and sometimes I'm just going to need to find that little bit of spark to fuel me up to really get out there and find it. And I kind of used this example over this past month, but like I just said, there's been plenty of days even throughout this year, not just this past month, but just plenty of days. I'm 248 days into it. Not every single day I've had the energy or the drive to get out there and put in the miles. And there's some days I don't even have the drive to put in the miles. And, August was a really bad example because I didn't have the drive and I didn't put in many miles. A lot of the days were just 1.5 mile days throughout almost that whole month. But there were some days even throughout the year, like I said, I didn't want to put in the miles, but I still found that spark to get out there and put them in. And there were days that I didn't want to be out there and I still put in a half marathon, or days I didn't want to be out there and still put in a little bit harder work than I planned to. Another prime example would be in July of when I did the 7-Eleven challenge of running to 7 different 7-Elevens within 11-mile radius on an 11-mile run and getting a Slurpee in between all of them. It was a great idea, a fun run to begin with, but that day was drizzling. It wasn't a beautiful day to really be out there. It was really humid. It just, and instead of like most of my days where I can, if I don't really feel up for it, I could still go out and run a short day and then push my long day to another day. That 7-Eleven day was like a race day, or another day where that day was locked in. I had to do it that day or I was going to miss out on doing it. So there's plenty of examples of, days I didn't want to really get out there, but I had to really find that spark. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes all it takes is just getting out there in general and pushing yourself a little bit. Sometimes it takes treating yourself to something that's nice and some new things. Sometimes it's getting rid of things, getting rid of some old baggage. But either way, you can really, really find that spark and get back into what you really need to get back into. So if you can, please try to do that. And that is going to be actually your daily discipline for the day today, guys. It is to find that spark and get back into the things that you were passionate about and that you truly loved and that truly made you happy. And not only made you happy, but actually just made you a better person in general. Maybe there are some good things out there. Maybe they're not always going to be exercising, stuff like that, but I think that would be a great route to go as well, to really find that spark to get out there and exercise. But there's also things out there that are good for you mentally. So whatever it is, find that spark to do those things that are going to really develop you as a person, as well as make you happy, but also truly challenge you. So, other than that, episode 248 is now in the books. I want to thank you guys so much for following along and listening to the Defining Discipline podcast. Like I said, I am your host, Scott. If you guys can, please give this podcast a like, a subscribe, a follow, and a share on our Facebook, our Instagram, our TikTok, our YouTube, and whatever podcast streaming platforms you've been following along and listening along on. Other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow for episode 249, and until then, peace out.